Hello, Lisa. I
Hi.
am so excited and so happy to finally meet you in person. And the fact that we've been connected over social media for a while now, and now today we're meeting in person is just so exciting. And this is actually the Guri Show podcast's first in person podcast.
Wow, I
And
feel very privileged.
yes, and I wanted to, I'm so happy that I'm doing this first in person with you because you're a very special person.
Thank you.
I love your social media presence. And the other reason is that I wanted to learn more about your journey. And not just me, I'm sure there are listeners out there, new and aspiring retreat leaders out there who want to learn from your journey. And so that's why I wanted to do this in person. How are you doing?
Very cool. Well, I love that we get to meet in person
Yeah.
in Bali, and because that's where I ran my first international retreats. But I started like 33-ish years ago and running. I'm from near Melbourne in Australia, and I was running these in-person summits because back then retreats were like all vegetarian and yoga and super expensive. So I started bringing people together because I'd moved from Melbourne to a small country town. And if you didn't play football, netball, or do horse riding, there was really nothing for young adults in their 20s. And I was in my 20s, and so I started organising these summits that were around leadership and who you were as a leader and those sorts of things. And I ran those for, quite a few years, but they were a one-off, once a year. People came back time and time again, but I really realised that magic of when people came together.
Yeah.
Then I started running, they went from mixed summits to women's retreats, and they were in Bali. And by that time, people were calling them retreats. And they were around cultural experiences, relaxation, and remembering who you were as a person. So it's really grown since then. I was running them on my holidays. I was a social worker. I was working with really hard end families that were involved in child protection and, the authorities and those sorts of things. And I really got to the point where I needed to do something different. I was so burnt out and so exhausted. And my then partner, now husband, said, why don't you run your retreats full time? And for me, it was that light bulb moment.
Yeah.
And so I started running them. I had this vision of running one a month overseas all year. That was silly. You can't sustain that energy. And also the marketing scene had started to change with more retreats and more people in that space that were saying, hey, I do this, I do that. And so having to then market on social media was a whole other experience. But for me, I realised that was my passion. That joy of watching people's faces when they arrive and that difference, and you know what that's like, that difference when they leave is so pivotal for all the hard work and all the organising and all the stuff that comes with retreats. And I just...
And it's what keeps you keep going.
Yeah, 100%. And watching, now that I coach, which I've been doing kind of for the past 10 years, but that stopped during COVID, of course, like everything. We had to reinvent how we operated. And I remember, we'd just come out of the first Ultimate Girls Week away in Fiji. Elizabeth Gilbert was our keynote. It was just the most phenomenal event. Literally 3 weeks later, the world shut down. And I remember watching the news and hearing about the border lockdowns and thinking, that's the end of my business. Like, what? Even though then we thought it would be like a 1 or 2 month thing, not years. But then after a couple of days where I really went to a very deep hole, because who am I now if I don't have this business, and I didn't want to go back to social work, I went, you know what? I'm going to be here at the end of this and my business is still going to stand. So I still showed up. I still posted. I still talked about, I can't wait to be together again with you. You know, we had 2021 locked in for the Ultimate Girls Week away. We had Gabrielle Bernstein committed to come to Vietnam, which was like, she was at the pinnacle of her what she puts out there. So she talks about manifestation and she's very popular.
Is she the author of the Superstar?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. And she was like, we'd had Elizabeth Gilbert, you know, author of Eat, Pray, Love. And I just went, you know what? This is not going to end my business. But through COVID and coming out of COVID, the scene has changed. There's so much noise in the retreat industry. There's
even over the last 2 years, if I'm not wrong.
I 100% agree. Yeah. And people saying, you should be making $50,000 from your retreat. Or we laugh about that all the time, you know, or, you know, you should be doing this and you should be doing this. And these are people that have maybe run some retreats, but they've been, you know, sometimes what they say and what they put out there, it doesn't match at all, which I really, really dislike.
Yeah. Going back to what you were talking about, like what happened after the second retreat with Gabrielle, so what happened then?
So we had the Ultimate Girls Week away with Liz, literally weeks. The world shut down, but we had like almost 80 bookings for 2021. Wow. And then I was like, after about, like, we were still like, yes, this is going to be okay. We're going to be, then by the end of 2020, when we were like, where is the end of this pandemic? We then started going, okay, not sure. But then, of course, we had to cancel the hotel. We'd paid money to Gabby's agents, like, and then we're having to give people refunds, and it was a nightmare. It was like that worst nightmare of retreats, because suddenly having to refund, and even though your refund policies are pretty solid, you're having to refund because you're cancelling an event because of the pandemic. And having to find all this money to refund people. So it was a really, really stressful period. And I think back to that time and I wonder why I didn't just go, nah, too much, and go back to social work. But I knew that retreat just before COVID was carrying women through that period that was to come. And I knew that I wanted to do that more. And of course, we've come out the other side now. And, you know, 2023 and 2024 were hard. But this year, it's feeling like for people that it's starting to change and that people are signing up to retreats, that people are offering, like there's so much noise, like we said before. And people are starting to really realise that running a retreat is not just let's do a retreat. It'll be fun, they said.
It takes effort.
Time and effort and persistence.
I was coming to the value system actually. So when you said that, you know, you've been through this difficult time and you still kind of came out of it stronger, what do you think are the core values that that helped you through that phase, and also that could help a lot of retreat leaders or coaches?
Wow, that's a good question. One, I don't know whether this is a core value, but persistency.
Yeah.
Like once I set my vision on the big picture and this is what I want, I don't give up.
Wow.
And I think for me, I know that transparency is a really core value of mine, because I want people to know how it really is, sometimes to my detriment. I have people say to me sometimes, you need to not tell people everything. And I've got better at that. But those things, and wanting people to experience this transformational experience. And I know when people haven't been on a retreat, they don't really get what that means. But that difference between how you feel before and after a good retreat, how you feel after, is quite, you can't describe it.
So persistence, transparency, and just the feeling.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's a value or not, but like being able to, as a retreat facilitator, hold that space so that people feel totally safe and comfortable is key.
I think that's definitely a value. So many people like stop hosting retreats after their first because they don't. I love that. But like, let's talk about what has changed over the years, and not just in terms of how you observe the industry, but also in terms of like the changes that you've gone through as a facilitator, as a leader, business owner, or even just as a person. Anything that you want to share.
Well, I think one of the main things in the industry that I see is there's so much noise outside there. And my marketing manager, her and I talk a lot about that there's lots of smoke and mirrors and lots of misconceptions of how your retreat should be. The marketing arena has definitely changed, and being able to keep up with that and have a plan. It used to be that you'd put a retreat out there and it would fill. I can't remember how we did it without social media, but every year I would have 20 to 30 young adults at my retreats. And then when I started, social media was quite new. And when I stepped into it more on a full-time basis. And
what year was that?
Oh gosh, what year is it this year? 2025, about 2012 or 13? 12. Like really stepping into it in a serious way and starting to build the business.
I knew what I was doing in 2012. Okay, what was I doing?
But learning to navigate that marketing. And while I say I have a marketing manager, like we do it together. We have lots of discussions, and she's a marketing expert. And for me, I realised I was at the pinnacle of what I knew. And then moving forward to engage someone to grow my business. But I think if someone's still doing it themselves, which is most people, is that consistency, that vision of, okay, I want 12 people at my retreat. This is where they're going to come from. I'm going to have 4 that are friends, 3 that are clients that have been before or that work with me, 2 are their friends, that sort of thing, breaking down those numbers so it's not overwhelmed. Because we go, we want 12 at our retreat, people will sign up.
Where are they coming from?
Where are they coming from? And it's really rare that they do that.
Also, like you said that, and this I personally feel in my business and my journey as well, that there's a huge role of the team, even if it's just one person.
Yeah.
And so how big are you on like just hiring, maybe like a social media manager, not monthly, not on the retainership, but like maybe just a couple of hours?
Yeah, well, definitely. No, I think that can have a huge impact Because if you're at the pinnacle of what you know, having someone to come in with a different perspective to say, okay, let's do these retreats, let's do these marketing steps, let's break down your social media, let's, you know, do this. And you might hire someone for an hour to give you ideas. And that can be that thing that changes what you do.
Yeah.
Because one idea might then spark that flow of social media, and that, you know, being able to draw out from you those key things to be like, and, you know, a few people will have seen, I did a post the other day, or the week, I don't know, time melds, about, you know, don't just talk about your retreat, talk about the feelings of your retreat, talk about your experiences, talk about those things so people connect with you rather than the vision of the retreat, because it's really easy to get caught up in the planning and the marketing and that stress that I'm not getting the numbers, you know. Yeah.
Because most people are not marketers.
No.
And what they're trying to do at times is stepping into those shoes, and they end up burning themselves out or even just overwhelming themselves for no reason.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like finding a balance between, okay, what things I need to do, how much do I need to be in the planning process, and how much focus do I need to give to the marketing. I don't know if you agree with that, but like,
I
just finding a
definitely
balance.
do. Yeah.
Because people think that they have to, subconsciously, they might not like be accepting it, but subconsciously the message is I need to be a marketer also.
Yeah.
Or logistics person.
Yeah. Look, I think what I find, and I talk to hundreds of people every year and do sessions with them, and I think there's two or three key things. One is your own self-doubt. And if I put out this retreat, why will people even come? That I call it your monkey voice in your head, and that, you know, confidence in self, that is the main thing. And knowing how to structure your social media so you get to your final goal. And, you know, like you said, most people don't have marketing backgrounds. And people that do have marketing backgrounds look at things a little bit different. Yeah, and maybe not always. How you market a course is not how you market a retreat.
Exactly.
Yeah, so being able to find that balance, but also share from the soul and the heart. Like if you're just running a retreat to make $80,000 per retreat, it's not the soul of what you're doing. Like, why are you doing it? What is it you want to put across to the world? And I'm like, you have to get to the soul of it, because people are not going to buy, not all people, some people, but, you know, most people are not going to buy from sharing a retreat on social media when they can't feel who you are.
Yeah, true. And it's also like, sometimes we get caught up in, what's my break even?
Yes.
And I need that one more person to buy numbers. But that's, you know, sometimes you lose the essence of who you actually need in that space.
Yeah.
Who actually needs this experience.
Yeah.
And we get caught up in, I need that one last spot.
We do, and you and I were talking about that the other week. And what I find is there are some retreat coaches out there, and look, everybody has a different method, but there are many that are out there that are about, no, you have to make money, you have to, you know, make this huge profit. And the reality is, not everybody in their first retreats makes a huge profit. You know, that they need to go, okay, what is my actual point of, okay, I feel okay with this. And often the reality is people will lose money their first few retreats and go, okay, I'm $500 down, can I afford that? Or, you know, different retreats, I'm $5,000 down, but is that okay in my business? Because then you get the proof concept
Yeah.
and you get the photos and the testimonials, and you see people.
So much more than
I know. I agree, and you know, not every coach will agree with me, and I've run retreats that don't break even, you know, particularly this uphill climb since pre-COVID has been like, okay, what can I afford to make this retreat a reality? You know? Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting.
We all face that question, like, do we really want to do it? And if we really want to do it, then we have to. We are going to.
Yeah.
It's not like we have to, but we're going to do it. We respect it. And so, just keeping, although I love money, everybody does that.
Of course,
So,
me
like,
too.
just keeping money aside for some time and thinking like, okay, who am I inviting or attracting in this retreat space? And then, so I'm a firm believer of the fact that money is at the root of creation. If you're creating something, like, it's a resource, it's just gonna come.
Yeah.
And so many people get caught up in that in that cycle of when it comes, how am I gonna pay all this to the venue, and how am I gonna cover all these costs, etc. Okay, so what would be, like, we're talking about the advice, in this conversation we're anyway giving the advice to the people.
Yeah.
What's the road for success looks like. But when it comes to a journey of a retreat leader, like, if the starting point is a little bit of struggle or maybe overwhelm, or the fact that the first retreat might not even break even, what do the journey looks like to success? So if your first one is not even breaking, not even at break even, but since the second looked like, not exactly second,
Yeah.
journey over 5 years,
like? Yeah. Well, I think the journey is different for everybody, and I think that, you know, you can go in with the plan, and best laid plans can go completely the other direction. I think my advice for people would be that it is an up and down journey. You know, it's funny, you were talking before about money, you know, I've had to do a lot of work on my money stories, and, you know, a lot of work around what does money mean for me. And as soon as I've let go of those money stories, it's 100% change. And, you know, in my generation, so I'm 53, I say my generation, I don't feel that old, but we didn't talk about money. I didn't even know what a money story was. I didn't know where mine came from at all. And I look back.
New concept.
Yeah, so new. And, you know, I look back at that concept, and I was involved in a workshop. We had Amy Lochran, the Good Nurse, who she was a Netflix movie. She helped catch a serial killer in the US. Look it up. Amy Lochran, the Good Nurse. She did a timeline therapy workshop at Agua in 2023 in Cairns, and it was about, for me, it was about that money, and that I always thought that my money stories came from my aunt working in corporate, and she didn't have a family or kids, and that she worked in corporate, and so she had a lot of money. Then I realised that's not where my money story came from. It came from the fact that my dad was such a hard worker, and he's Austrian, and my parents spent, I don't know how many years, about 5 years, delivering pamphlets in the late 70s to afford to go to Austria with the four of us in 1980. And it cost thousands and thousands of dollars, and airfares were super expensive because people didn't just fly all over the world. And for me, realising that money story of mine was that money just comes from hard work. And if you don't work yourself to the bone, then you won't have money. And that realisation that that's not true. So for me, that realization and then the work that I've done post that workshop around my money stories, how I feel when I get a bill come in or an account and I go, like, how am I going to pay that? Like this realization that I go, okay, I am actually very good at calling in money when I need it. That I can go, okay, let me work out where that money is going to come from and that I can solve these problems. And I think that money stuff gets so caught up in our self-confidence and our, oh, my retreat didn't quite break even, or I only made a couple $1,000. It wasn't worthwhile. Without looking at that other side of, look at the lives that my stuff, my gifts have affected and transpired onto others.
Yeah. So true. Lovely. And also, I think that's a strong one, and so many people have that money belief that it only comes from hard work. But again, if you look at the flip side, there are so many people who are working hard, but they don't make it.
Yeah, yeah.
And we only got 24 hours in a day. And I love 8 hours sleep. Lesser and lesser, but I still love 8 hours. Yeah. So, going back to the question, I don't know if you want to add something to that money story. Like, okay, let me ask you, what are the 3 things that you've heard from people when it comes to money, or like money beliefs?
Oh.
3 top things. So one, I get it that it's like it comes from hard work. If they're not putting in so many hours, they probably might not be able to get as many people. But, or if you want to just rephrase it, like what are the other 2?
People won't pay that, or people can't afford that. That would be the biggest thing that I hear when people are putting out, particularly their retreats. People are not going to pay that to come to my retreat, and that's a them problem, not a guest problem. Because I know the majority people that sign up to my retreats, I would say 70% pay in full. 30% pay on payment plans. So clearly people can afford it. And if you're targeting to the right market, then they can afford exactly what you're putting out there. Yeah. Did that answer that?
Yeah, of course. If I look at it, I struggled with it, for the longest time, let's say. And then I started looking at, how do I spend? And do I feel comfortable spending $15,000, $1,500, $2,000?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And then if I can do it, and I'm coming from, I'm carrying this baggage of struggle, then there are people out there who need it and who want it, and they can pay. And we're living in this time where people do have affordability.
Yeah.
Affordability is not an issue.
Yeah. And social media tells us that it is.
It is, yeah.
And people can't afford it, but it's not true. I mean, yes, people are tightening their belts, and if you don't have as much disposable income or no disposable income, then 100% people are worried about that. But there's so many other people that do have that income.
True. And the saving patterns have also evolved. Like, people do save for retreats, or they do save for self-care.
Yeah.
Which wasn't the case, I think.
No,
10 years
even,
ago.
yeah.
Like, people just wanted to save for maybe once in a while a vacation, house or car. But now people are saving for self-care.
Yeah.
Just my me time.
Yeah.
So that's a good change, and that also sends a signal that yes, people do want to spend and invest. What does the third one look like? So we have hard work, and we have like self-doubt.
I would say the third one, and it probably comes into that self-doubt, like what I'm putting out there is not valuable enough.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of intertwined
Yeah,
and
exactly.
interconnected. But they're kind of the main things I talk about. And I probably, have calls and chat with people on Messenger, maybe 10 or 15 women a week. And I hear those same things a lot. And especially the people that are often moving from maybe a corporate role or another role into a role of running your own business, and they haven't yet realized what that entails, and they are like, oh, this is a lot, and I'm feeling overwhelmed and I don't know where to start. So they're probably the three intertwined things that I hear all the time.
And I learned it from my coach that there's an employee mindset and a CEO mindset.
Yes.
So when you say that, that just fits perfectly there. That when you're an employee, you know that there's going to be a paycheck at the end of the month.
Yeah.
But when you're a CEO, you don't know, and you have to believe in the
Yeah. Yeah, you do. You have to believe in the unknown.
unknown, and that things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Even if they don't, it's for the good.
Yeah.
Or you'll figure it out.
Yeah. And celebrating when someone does pay you for something, celebrating those retreat sign-ups, celebrating those, being invited to speak at a conference, or being, someone signing up for your $47 offering, celebrating that each one.
Even if it's like a $9, like the lowest.
Yeah, I know. Like I sell a couple of products, like retreat products, and when someone buys my $27 product, I'm like, I still feel that same like I hope that never leaves.
I mean, I see it as like a lot of trust that someone is putting in you, because I can go out and if I search for a retreat leader program, let's say, there are 1,000 programs that will come up.
Yeah.
Why am I only choosing you? Why am I only joining your program? That's a lot of. Okay, so going back to the question, how does the journey look like? Do you want to maybe share something, when does the overwhelm ease a little? I know it's different.
I run my own business. I don't know what ever does. No, I think when you...
Or just is that even a correct question? Do people even need to expect that?
Look, I think people do need to expect overwhelm. They do need to expect that there will be moments when they're like, why am I working for myself? This is crazy.
Yeah.
But I think that celebrating the wins and knowing that when you started to where you are now, I look back at when I started, particularly even though I've been running retreats for a long time, 10 years ago when I stepped into this full time, I'd worked out I couldn't go back to social work. I had spent a year building the business, and then was 10 years last November. And it takes time. And, write down your successes. Have a book that you just write down. Someone paid $7.
Oh, wow.
I got a retreat booking. I had a great conversation with someone today. Keep track of that so you can look back and go, wow, what an amazing 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months I've had. Because, and I say it all the time, retreats change lives. They just do. And even if you're not running retreats and you're watching this, even by doing what you do in your business, it changes people. Yeah.
It sure transformed my life. My retreat is the reason how I found my partner.
Yeah, nice. Oh, that's so cute.
That's the best thing.
Yeah. So were you on a retreat and he was on a retreat?
Yeah.
That's so cute.
We didn't meet for the 3 days. It was like a personal development summit, but we didn't meet for those 3 days.
Yeah.
It's just after the 3 days, somebody
so
let's go out for lunch, and then he came along with his group of friends, and then we saw each other. We met. It's like a casual conversation.
Yeah.
And then we started exchanging messages.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
So they sure impact your life.
They do. I see, you know, my main retreat, of course, is the Ultimate Girls Week Away, or AGWA, as we call it. You know, I've seen lots of women come to my retreats by themselves. And they're often lonely and disconnected and want to find something more. And they might not know that they're lonely and disconnected, but suddenly they have got new friends.
Yeah.
And there's two women in particular came to Fiji and were from different parts of the US. And I can't remember if they were sharing a room or they were just hanging out in the same group, because we had almost 200 women there. And their friendship has formed because of that. And they're now like, they travel cross country, they catch up on Zoom, they just those friendships. And it's, as you know, it's a friendship that doesn't diminish with time. So we could be at a retreat together and not see each other for 20 years. And that feeling is still the same because of that shared intense experience. Oh, I give myself goosebumps. But
Totally agree. It's amazing. I mean, and also going back to the loneliness, like so many people, like you said, don't know they're lonely or disconnected.
yeah,
And it's at the end of the retreat that they realize, oh my God, I'm so lonely. Like, you know, they point out the exact feeling. They were disconnected. But if you ask them on the first day, how do you feel? They probably won't even be able to give you or label their feelings. I feel disconnected. They're like, I just feel like I want more joy. You know, they would say things like that. But at the end, then they can exactly point out, I was disconnected.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And women, like, once you get past school, where do women make friends? Mothers' club? Sports clubs, or work. And, you know, I was the mum that I was working, but I didn't really go to a parents' group. Like, I went once and I didn't like the women, so that was my choice. But I didn't have, like, I made my friends through work, and then I stopped working. And this is another thing people don't talk about much, is that when you do step away from work, a lot of friends will drop off. And you still do have connections and friends, and social media enhances that. But for me, it was a period of mourning and grieving. I was creating this amazing thing, but yet I was so lonely. And who were my people? And my friends, which was only a small group, would say, oh, how's business going? And you'd start to tell them, and their eyes would glaze over. Because they were never interested in going on a retreat, but also they didn't understand business. And you know, your family and friends should be your biggest supporter, and yet often they're not. It's a whole other podcast.
It's a whole other conversation for sure. And also, can you repeat that last thing? I think I was going to make a point, but I forgot.
That your family and friends should be your biggest supporter, but often they're not.
But also, when you lose friends, or when you're switching your industry or niche or whatever, you lose people. And that is the phase. It's also like for me, when it happened with me, I gave myself all the time to reflect. To what do I need to do? It was a self-discovery. But I want to ask you, was this also a reason why you gave all yourself to retreat?
No, I don't think it was. I think I knew that was my path. I knew that I was here to do something different. And to really stir up the retreat industry in a way. So I think that would have happened regardless. I think that finding my space and finding the people I belonged with, it's like that grieving process of, you know, anger and sadness and disbelief and all of those things. I got to the point where I just went, okay, this is how it is. And let me look for those people that I'm meant to be with. Let me make new connections. Let me make new friends. And I think of my network now, and really there is, other than family, there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people that are my friends, like close friends from outside my work.
Like 3 a.m. friends.
Yes. We call them TikTok friends. So not TikTok, Tic-Tac friends. So those people that you can message when you're having a stressful moment. But those people that I know I can rely on. But then most of the people I'm connected with now are retreat people and people that I've made connections with over my business journey. And I had not an incident. I had an experience where last year before, was not long ago, where one of my Agua team came from Wollongong, and she came down to Melbourne, and she did a healing at a retreat, and she did some other things around the state. And she said to me, "This is because of you." That makes me teary when I think about it. She said, "These contacts that I have that are friends now are because of you and your vision with the Ultimate Girls Week away." And I'm like, oh, because we forget that stuff. That's the stuff we don't celebrate, those connections that people make at retreats because of what you've done. Yeah.
It's the small things. It's the small things that are really the reason why you do it.
Yeah.
We stop enjoying.
Yeah, we do. Because life is serious when you run a business. We forget that fun dynamic. You know, I got on the plane yesterday. I'm going to one of my friend Michelle's retreats tomorrow. And I got on the plane and I was so stressed.
Just yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday. So stressed about all these things because I'm away for a month now. But all these external business things that I felt like I was juggling. And I actually got on the plane and I think I had some sort of almost
relief.
Well, yeah, I know. It was because I started, you know, when you're sick and you shiver? I started shivering. I'm always hot on a plane. I've always got my fan out. And I was like, oh, what's going on? I'm like, I knew I wasn't sick. And I was like, what's going on? But I think it was that stress release of, you know you've got it all under control. And if you have to do things while you're away, you can do them. But that belief that everything would fall into place was strong after that. Like, it's a 5-hour flight, so those couple hours where I'm like, am I gonna make the end of the flight? It was a lot to process. And we forget that it can be fun, that it should be fun, that we should celebrate everything.
It's the highlight of this conversation. Fun. Coming back to Ugwa, you know, the one thing that kind of brought me to Ugwa and you and your space that you've created for us coaches is the joy that people experience. If I were to say one word that what Ugwa means to you, it's joy. To really see the joy that people are experiencing in those pictures. And then the wait time is going to be my first one. But I know for sure that it's going to be a fun trip.
Yeah. because you know that laughing that you do with girlfriends. That
Yeah.
you might occasionally with your partner or husband or family members, but when you're with your friends and it's that deep laugh, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
I love.
Yeah, those who know can only know what you're saying, but those who've experienced it know what you're saying. It's really just comes from true, authentic you, like
Yeah.
non-judgmental.
Yeah.
You know that the other person is not going to judge you in any case.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
you're great. You know, for example, the picture that you shared the other day of Chloe.
In the pool with the coconut? Yeah.
I mean, that's a good thing to do, but you can only do it with your friends.
Yeah, yeah. If you're at a resort with your husband or partner and you're like, I'm just going to get in the pool with my coconut, can you take a photo? And be like, what?
Yeah, just take a picture. It's just a picture shot, but it's not like fun. It's not enjoy.
Yeah.
Those are the things that happen in retreats.
Definitely.
Yeah. And let's say a place where you find friends. You just forget that you kind of like you let go of the mask and there's, let's say, mask of perfection.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't have to be anyone.
Yeah.
Or you don't have to think about what am I cooking for dinner? I need to do shopping. I need to pay these bills. I need to run people here or there. Like you're not a mother or daughter or wife or partner or any of those employee. You're there and you're just you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key thing for a lot of women is that just you.
But like the other side of it is what's happening behind the scenes. Like, how are you coping up is probably not the right word, but like how does your 3 to 4, I think Agua is for 3 to 4 days?
7 days.
Like how does your 7 days look like?
When I'm at Agua?
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Well, I'm running the show, so it can be, of course, there's moments of stress and, you know, I think for me, the hotel that you're working with is super, super important. Yeah. It looks like I'm usually on the ground a week before. I get there a week before, so I know everything's ready. I know the goodie bags are done. I know that the restaurants are organised, that the excursion days are all happening, that the venue that we've got knows exactly what's happening. So that prep time is vital, whether it's, you know, a 7-day retreat, a weekend, being able to arrive at least a day before is key to feeling organised, I think, and lots of other retreat facilitators feel the same. It's busy. I'm not there for a holiday.
Yeah.
But I get to soak up the environment of people that are. And I get to see that magic. I get to see the conversations. I get to see the excitement when people arrive and step out of the transfer vehicle or the ferry or wherever we are, and to feel that magic of I'm here, I can relax. But yeah, my journey is making sure everything runs smoothly. And then so everyone for Agua leaves on the Saturday, including the team. We have a final closing ceremony on the Friday night, but with the team, we finish on the Saturday. And I think for me, it's afterwards that I can really savor that journey and that experience, because it's a big retreat. When I'm running my smaller retreats, I'll be in Cambodia in June. There'll probably be about 8 women. I'm running it with my friend Mignon. You know, that's different because you are able to lie by the pool with people. Yeah. And you are able to have those conversations or sit up talking until midnight. You know, it's much more intimate. And but my parents remember when I first started running the leadership summits, And my dad says all the time, you used to come home so exhausted. I'm like, yeah, I did. I don't experience that as much now.
Yeah.
Of course I'm tired because I've been working for however long. But I think what people don't realise is they will be exhausted after a retreat, and that's okay. And those
You need their own time.
You do. You need that downtime, and you need to plan at least a couple of days to just breathe and enjoy what you've created. And that, but it's
lovely.
it's really nice. But look, it is. You're on for 24/7. If something's going wrong at night, not that things normally do, but you know, yours is the door that people will knock on at 3 a.m. Even for bug spray. That's a whole other conversation. You would be surprised. I can't get into the internet, mate. Go to the front desk. I'm not going to know.
True.
But you know, the way I view it and the way I talk about it is you're holding that container, that space for your retreat guests for the time that you're together. Whether it's a 1-day retreat, that's a whole other conversation. That's a workshop.
How do people host 1-day retreats? Like,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's very strange, and these questions that come up on Facebook.
Oh, I'm running this retreat, and it's 1 day, and I'm like, that's not a retreat.
For me, I think, in my personal experience, and everybody, people can contradict it, that it takes time for people to even get into the retreat energy.
Yes.
And kind of like be vulnerable and let go and surrender to what's coming for them. And 1 day.
It's a good taster for what they could experience. I have lots of conversations. I get a little bit heated about those things when people are like, I'm running a 1-day retreat. I'm like, it's not a retreat.
Sometimes I just, like, call me whatever, but like just to make people at least jump and do it.
I 100% agree with that.
If you want to do it, just try. But then it's not a retreat. Then I'm also like, you'll know. After some time, you'll be like, no, it's not a retreat.
Exactly.
You'll learn it your own way. What, in your experience, is like the biggest difference between hosting a 7-day summit like Aqua and like a small 8-people retreat?
I think that
7 days.
There's always organising. Right? So it doesn't matter what size, you've always got to get that right. I know that, you can breathe a bit more on your smaller numbers. You can program things like, let's sit by the pool for 3 hours, or let's, do this or do that, Whereas with a bigger event, people expect a lot more. They expect that there's a set program. They expect that there's, from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, there's free time. Like, there's those things. And I think I think a lot. When I say I think, I know. I know the answers to this. But I know, having done, this will be my first, second, third, fourth Agua, to count on my fingers. I know that women expect to come, feel connected, feel safe, experience different things, and walk away with a fresh perspective. I know that. Definitely for both. The smaller retreats, 100% people still expect to feel those things, but I see, and that's the container I've built too, is that this is what women expect when they sign up for the Ultimate Girls Week Away. These are the things that they know they're going to get. So I think, again, I know that best practice retreats is a huge in making sure that your guests get exactly what they've been told they'll get at your retreat. Because so often I have people, particularly women, because that's the arena I work in, messages every week saying, I went to this retreat, they promised this, but we didn't get it. And look, I've done it before. I've fallen short at times. And, you know, mostly it's pretty rectifiable, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, you know, how can we make this work? But so often there's retreat facilitators and organisers that offer things that are not delivered. So let's just say an example is, okay, so one woman, part of her retreat was hot air ballooning. The weather was so bad, they couldn't do it. And my understanding is she got a refund, but then did not pass that on to the guests, which didn't go down very well at all. And
I think in such cases, you got to make it up to people. Got to.
Yeah, like, oh, okay, we haven't done that, you know. We know balloon rides are not cheap. You know, what can we do instead? Or can we do this and I refund this bit and that sort of thing. But I think communicating that with your guests is the key role not to get backlash or people angry. I've had one retreat facilitator message me because there was a whole lot of mess went on with a facilitator that she was bringing in for her retreat, and there was one retreat guest who was like, no, I'm not coming, and it was within the refund period. She's like, no, I'm not coming, I know I don't want to be moved to a different retreat, I don't care if you're bringing in a different facilitator, I just want a refund. And that organizer was like, what do? I said, sometimes you just need to refund. As painful as that can be, of putting money out of your pocket back into the guest pocket, sometimes you just need to. And while you might have really strict refund policies, sometimes you need to make a value and judgment call. Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's you, and you want to make sure that there's a certain experience that you deliver.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if somebody's asking for a refund, in my thinking, that's also an experience that you're creating for that person. How does that person go communicating with you? You know, when you were sharing a little bit of this thing, kind of like thinking, what's the funniest incidences that
I've got a few great stories.
Yeah, I want to know like funny stories now.
Yeah, so when I was organising Fiji a couple weeks before, I was getting people's passport details and travel flights and that, so I could organise what transfer ferries they were on. Huge job. And I was sending out emails, and then as people would send in their information, I would take them off the email list. And so then there was one woman coming from the US, and I said, I really need your arrival details. And she said, I don't know why you need that. I'm driving. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I don't know why you need my passport details. I won't even need it. I'm like, what? What it got down to was, she said, but Fiji is in Florida.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm like, what? She didn't have a passport, so she couldn't come. She'd bought her flights. Like, what? It still stuns me to this day. I think probably that's the funniest story I've got.
Like, did she realize that it's the Fiji?
She kind of cut me off and didn't message me after that, especially when I said, well, there's no refund. We're like 3 weeks out. Everything's paid for. But the upside was I could then gift her space to someone, which is I always love doing. So that was probably my funniest story. Another story was I was running for a while. I was running like a tour through Europe where we'd just go to great places, relax, would finish with a cruise. It was it was fantastic. And I was in a souvenir shop in Paris, Australian women, and the whole group ended up sucked into this conversation. One of them said, oh, I can't buy a calendar. I'm like, why? And she said, because it'll be a different day in Australia. I know, right? I'm like,
It took me a second.
What?
Like,
she's like, yeah, it'll be a different day. And I'm like, we're in the same time continuum. We're just different time zones. So when it's, you know, there's a 13th of August here, there's a 13th of August in Australia. Like, she's like, no. And then the others were chiming in. I'm like, what? Are you all seriously?
but like, and the question, like, it's really giving me a strong doubt right now. Like, does that mean, like, let's say there's on 13th August, it's a Saturday, but it's still a Saturday in Europe, right? On 13th of August.
Yeah.
So it's Saturday in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's not like a whole other
like
day.
Yeah.
I know.
Like a Sunday.
I was just like, how? And she messaged me, I reckon, I don't know, 6 months later, and she's like, oh my God,
Again,
I was
wow.
thinking of that, and I cannot believe I said something so stupid. Yeah.
It's also actually a good thing that it takes you down to your being the child that you are.
Yes.
You know, without even thinking.
Yeah.
You sometimes just say silly things and you feel pride in it.
Yeah.
This could make sense.
Yeah, made sense in Paris.
Yeah, when you go back to your regular life, then you realize, oh,
That was so stupid.
So stupid.
Yeah.
Now I'm back to the math.
Yeah. Probably the biggest compliment I've gotten on a retreat was in Fiji, and there was again an American woman who had booked for a single room, and then at the last minute she had a friend come, so they shared. So I owed her a refund. And I'm like, are you okay if we sort that out in Fiji? And she's like, yeah, of course. And I ran into her one afternoon. I'm like, let's get that sorted out. Come now. She said, no, keep that as a tip.
Wow.
I know. Yeah. She was like, this has far exceeded my expectations. Wow. That what I've got, even it was like day 2 or 3. And that I'm like, oh, that's a huge compliment. And it was, I mean, it wasn't a huge amount, but it wasn't a little amount either. It was a few $100s. And I'm like, I know. It was like, that's amazing.
So it's a huge compliment.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we can keep going.
I think we can talk for hours.
Yeah.
But people might be bored and running this on double speed.
Exactly. I think we are already 1 hour into the conversation. I would love to learn more about the coming event in Vietnam, and what do you want to share with people, like what they should look forward to, and also like inviting them.
Yeah. So I love the ultimate girl speaking way is my baby, so I love talking about her. So it's the 2nd to the 9th of August this year, 2025. We're advising everybody to arrive on the 1st, just so that you're there ready for the excitement of the day. It's 7 days of doing as much or as little as you like. So that's 7 days of workshops and speakers and free time and massages. And if you've been to Hoi An, you know that one of the things there is the tailors and having clothing made. So we've got a tailor's coming to the hotel. Very dear friend of mine and her sister's tailor's shop. And everyone gets 200 Australian dollars to have made whatever you need to make or want to make. We're also going to have shoes and handbags and all of those things as well. But for me, Agua is about connection and that making new friends and being able to experience a lot of the things that we've been talking about today. But that ability to say yes to something for you is what Agua is all about. And it's going to be amazing. We are over half full, which is great. And there's still 5 months out, which is fantastic. As a retreat facilitator, that makes my heart very happy. We're at almost 40 people, which is great. So we're looking at 60 to 70 as max. And while for a lot of you, you're like, oh, that
100.
feels,
Make it 100.
Yeah. But while a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, that's so big, I'll get lost. I don't want to be around that many people. I've found in the past, and we have a lot of neurodivergent women come who are really don't like lots of people, don't like people sometimes. And I'm thinking of one in particular, and I'll tell her I talked about her. Being in a bigger group means that there's more space to be yourself. And if you want to go and sleep for the afternoon or lie by the pool or go and have a massage, it's okay. Like, it's okay to pick and choose what you want, which is perfect for the Ultimate Girls Week Away. So what I say is don't miss out. I feel like we're going to be full by the end of April, which makes my heart full. So just say yes. Work out how it works. People pay in full. They pay in monthly installments. All of that sort of thing. And the bonus of this is it's always a single room. Because we know women after a certain age like a single room. But if you're traveling with your bestie or your sister or whoever, you can share a room. So the price is $3,879 and Australian. So for the Americans and everywhere else in the world, it's a bargain. And it includes, jump on the website, ultimategirlsweekaway.com and check it out. Everything on there is what's included. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Me too. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak at the event and maybe hosting a workshop also. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. Yeah, I can't wait.
All right, thank you so much for listening. Hope you liked it. It's a teeny bit of the conversation that we could have with Liesel and her journey. Just how do I say it?
Snippets. I'm sure we could do a whole series.
Yes, we're going to do a whole series and she's going to keep coming back. I'm saying without even asking her.
Okay.
All right. Hope you liked it. Do drop a comment down below and subscribe and let us know how you feel about this. Thank you.
Bye.
This was good.
Yeah. Very good.
We could have
hours,
Yeah.
I'm sure.